ad finem fortiter, suaviter disponentque omnia, Eimi ad docendum nos, iam prudentiae.
On this first evening of the great O antiphons, December 17th, we cry out to the Lord under his title of Wisdom. The Latin chant that we just heard can be rendered in English this way: O wisdom, who came forth from the mouth of the Most High, reaching from end to end, and ordering all things mightily and sweetly. Come and teach us the way of prudence. Wisdom. This is certainly a divine attribute. We can say, rightly, that God is wise. But if we look to the text of the scriptures, we see that we wouldn't just say that God is wise, but that wisdom, divine wisdom, is personified, is another person. As Christians, you and I would recognize this in the second person of the Blessed Trinity, as Christ himself. St. Paul, in his first letter to the Corinthians, says that we proclaim Christ and him crucified, Christ the power of God and the wisdom of God. St. John, in his Gospel, in the prologue, he identifies Jesus as the Logos, or the Word. This is reprising that idea of Jesus as the wisdom of God. We render Logos in English as word, but it's not just another word. That word in Greek, Logos, is where we get the word logical from. This is where we can see reason. That Logos, that word, is an ordering principle which governs everything. Logos not just coming forth from the mouth of God, but God himself. As St. John said, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. If we keep reading in St. John's prologue, we read that that Word became flesh at Christmas. This is what these antiphons are preparing us for, the celebration of Christmas. In the book of Proverbs, we read wisdom speaking, saying, "The Lord begot me. When he fixed the foundations of earth, then I was beside him as an artisan. I was his delight day by day." We see invoking this personage of wisdom is meant to recall for us Christ's work in creation. We hear in Sirach how wisdom came forth from the mouth of the Most High, quoted directly in our antiphon for this evening. And then in the book of wisdom itself, how wisdom spans the world from end to end mightily and governs all things well. This is the same text that we find in our antiphon, how all things were ordered mightily and sweetly. Let me just stop and think about that for a second. All things, everything, has been ordered by the wisdom of God. Everything in the created universe. Think of the Hubble telescope and all of the vast wonders of creation that it has discovered and broadcast back to Earth. All of the galaxies that we had no idea existed have been ordered by the hand of the Almighty. And not just on such a large scale, but every single intricate thing discovered underneath the lens of a microscope has been ordered by the hand of the Almighty. As St. John said in his prologue, through him, through that Logos, through the wisdom, all things came to be. And he orders them, in the words of the antiphon, mightily and sweetly. Or mightily and gently might be another way to translate that word suaviter. To understand this, or maybe appreciate it a little more deeply, we can look to the example of the life of Christ in the Gospels. How at one moment he was infinitely mighty and forceful, and then in the next, he was sweet and gentle. How he would calm the sea and rebuke the wind and the waves, and how tenderly he would reach out to heal the man who was born blind, or welcome the little children to bless him. I'm reminded of a quote by St. Francis de Sales. "Nothing is so strong as gentleness, nothing so gentle as real strength." You see, these two traits that are invoked for how wisdom orders all things, mightily and sweetly, they complement one another. They're not opposed. The Lord's gentleness does not make him weak. Neither is his strength harsh. And so now, having understood maybe a little bit more deeply the idea of the Lord as wisdom, how he orders all things from one end of creation to the next, we now come to the petition of the antiphon. Come and teach us the way of prudence. Prudence comes to us from a contraction of a Latin word, providentia, which means foresight, or to see or look ahead. Prudence is a virtue. It's a habit of our intellect that allows us to look ahead in any circumstance or situation that we might find ourselves, to see what path it is that we should follow. What would be the virtuous action for you and me to do in this concrete, particular situation? The virtue of prudence helps us with practical decisions, letting us know what it is that we should do here and now. In this antiphon, we beg Christ, the divine wisdom, to come to us, the one who orders all things rightly, to teach us prudence and its ways, so that the one who orders all creation might teach us to order our lives correctly. As we pray this antiphon tonight, we might want to stop and ask ourselves, stop and take stock of our lives. Is there something in our life that is off kilter or out of order and needs to be ordered rightly? Is there something in our lives that would benefit from the virtue of prudence? Maybe a relationship or a situation, a place where we find ourselves that we know we are not doing the prudent thing, we are not following the virtuous path. Where there's something in our life that needs to be ordered rightly, that needs to be reordered towards Christ and towards our salvation. As we pray this antiphon tonight, let us beg that Christ, the wisdom of God, would come to us and help us grow in the way of prudence.